Coming to paperback and e-readers from the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women are becoming lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Pre-order your copy of The Woman Crisis on Amazon.com today. In a previous video, I asked where Anderson Lee Aldrich's father was. Now, your Anderson Lee Aldrich is the alleged suspect who went into the Club Q, an LGBTQ nightclub, with a long gun and a pistol, and participated in a mass shooting which took the lives of 5 people and led to the injury of 25 others before a former member of our U.S. military tackled him and prevented him from taking any more lives. Now, the reason why I ask where is Anderson Lee Aldrich's father is because in most of the cases of these mass shootings, these boys usually do not have their fathers in their lives, and because there's no father in their lives, many of these boys grow up to become men in crisis, like your Anderson Lee Aldrich allegedly was. Now, recently, the father of Anderson Lee Aldrich came forward in an interview where he praised his son for his violent behavior as a child, and also talked about how he believed that his son had committed suicide in 2016. And as your Aaron Brink continued to talk about his son, I began to see how not only the son was a man in crisis, but I also saw how the father was a man in crisis as well. Now, Aaron Brink, the 48-year-old father of Anderson Lee Aldrich, also fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and your Aaron Brink seems to have been a man in crisis for many years, and as he struggled with an addiction to crystal meth, which I talk about in the chapter Addiction and the Man Crisis, and he was also a former MMA fighter and a former adult film star. I mean, he was definitely a man in crisis for many years and lived an extremely dysfunctional life, one that was so dysfunctional that the mother wanted to avoid all contact with this man, to the point where she basically told the father of this boy that her son was dead. And as a result, the boy never really knew anything about his father because the mother was embarrassed and ashamed to say that she had been involved with this man. And as a result, this boy never knew his father until she gave him a phone call 6 months ago. So that really tells me that the mother played a major role in the boy's dysfunction by denying him a relationship with his father, and she really didn't know what to do with this boy who was growing and becoming a ticking time bomb. And as he was going out here making threats to go out here and blow up the home that she was renting, that's when she possibly went out here looking to go call the father, because the boy had grown to become completely out of control. And the boy wound up becoming out of control and because of the dysfunctional relationship that the mother established as related to the codependent relationship she had, and denying the father a relationship with him. But this father was such a piece of work that he definitely was not somebody who would have helped this boy at all, because he himself was a beta male who was a man in crisis, and he was out here praising his son for his violent behavior, saying that if he goes out here, that this is how it works, and if you act violently, you will go out here and get instant results. This is a dysfunctional idea as related to conflict resolution, and this is the kind of approach that beta males learn how to do to resolve conflicts, because they see their dysfunctional mothers and their dysfunctional beta male fathers going out here and acting crazy and wild, and because people look to pacify them, they believe that this gets them results. Now, the father possibly, again, wound up believing that this is how you resolve conflicts, because most drug addicts, this is how they go out here in conflict resolve, by acting crazy and wild. And because people want to get them out of their way, they just go out here and give them what they want. But this is one of the things that they do. And again, this is how the father taught the son, and this is how the son goes out here and believes that dysfunction is perfectly normal. Now, what's really more disturbing than your Aaron Brink's whole idea of fatherhood and conflict resolution is his whole crazy idea about the values that he has. Now, your Aaron Brink goes on to talk about how his family is a Mormon and a conservative Republican, and he then goes on and makes a homophobic statement to some by saying Mormons don't do gay and that there's no gays in the Mormon church. However, he doesn't look at how himself being a porn star is just diametrically opposed to the very religion he says he's participating in. Again, this is par for the course for your beta male who goes out here and follows a religion on the surface, but does not practice what he preaches. Again, showing me core foundations to how dysfunctional this boy became, because he came from two dysfunctional parents, one who openly lied to the father of her children by saying that the son was dead, and then one who possibly enabled this son for an extended period of time. And as he was being enabled, he was out here simmering and boiling and seething in anger until he wound up looking to explode in a rage by attempting to blow up his mother's home. But when that didn't work, he went out here with a long gun and a pistol, looking to participate allegedly in the mass shooting that took place at the Club Q nightclub. And that just shows me again that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because we see, like I talk about in The Man Crisis, how some of these beta males fathers have beta male sons, and we see that this father and son are almost alike. They're both just as dysfunctional, and even though this father wasn't active in his son's life until about 6 months ago, we see where the dysfunction came from, because the mother basically was ashamed to say that she had been involved with this beta male father, and because she was ashamed, she denied her son a relationship with this father, and this is what led to the son becoming just as toxic as the father, ironically, because what the mother thought, oh, I'll keep the son away from the father so that he doesn't grow up to become toxic like his dad, who's a porn star and on crystal meth. But ironically, the son became just like the father, because it seems like the dysfunctional way that the mother was raising the son by keeping the father away from him led to him becoming just as dysfunctional as his father, and even worse, participating in more heinous acts than going out here and becoming addicted to crystal meth, or going out here and participating in sexual promiscuity, like participating in pornographic movies. It all led to the son following in the footsteps of the father, sadly, who says he's a conservative Republican, but I don't see how a guy can be a conservative Republican and be out here participating in pornographic films. Again, his values do not really match the lifestyle that he's participating in, because a conservative Republican wouldn't be in porn, again, diametrically opposed to the religion he participates in, which states that fornication is a sin, and having sex outside of marriage is a sin, and being a whoremonger like men in pornography are is a sin. But this man is going to say, oh, I'm a conservative Republican, and again, just showing me the foundations for the dysfunction, old values that Anderson Lee Aldrich had, and just showing me how the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Now, at the end of the interview, he says that he's sorry that he let his son down, but the whole thing is that the mother equally let her son down, because had that mother let this boy get to know his father, maybe this might have prevented the boy from becoming a worse man in crisis. But the whole thing is, a lot of this is also equally on the mother, who went out here and lied to the father, saying the son was dead, and trying to raise the boy to become a man on her own. Unfortunately, as this boy wound up growing older and had no male figure to give him any guidance, what happened was the good little boy she was trying to raise into manhood grew up to become, like the late David Carroll talked about, a boy who was taller than her, had a deeper voice, was more aggressive, becoming more out of control, and the woman and the mother didn't know what to do with the son until he had gone out here and pushed the boundaries too far by going out here and threatening to blow up the home that she was renting a room in. And that's when this woman basically decided, oh, now it's time to call the father, and now it's time to call the father to try to get the son in line. But it was too late to do that, because the father basically couldn't do anything at that point, even if he wanted to. And even as dysfunctional as he was, there was nothing the father could do, because the boy basically had been raised dysfunctional, and he continued to escalate his behavior by after the mother refused to press charges to give him another chance. The boy went out here and escalated his behavior by going out here and buying more firearms, and then going out here and participating in the plan to go out here and go to the Club Q and murder all of those people at the club. But thank God there was a member of our U.S. military there who took action and prevented him from taking more lives than he did. Now, your Anderson Lee Aldrich, again, he was a man in crisis, just like his father, and just like his father, he just proved to be just as dysfunctional and just as violent. And what's really sad is that in her efforts to try to prevent her son from being like his father, he actually became worse than his father. And this is something that happens in the case of a lot of beta males. They become worse than their fathers because they both, like their fathers, they don't really get guidance from another man. And because they get no guidance from another man, they grow up to become men in crisis. And you'll have the father, he's just out there being crazy. You'll have the son being out here being crazy. And sadly, you have the Anderson Lee Aldrich trying to avoid accountability, just like his mother's trying to avoid accountability for raising this dysfunctional son by trying to say that he's non-binary at this point. But as I see it, this is just a ruse that he's using to go out here to avoid being accountable for hate crime charges, which are more penalizing than just the first degree murder. But in any case, your Anderson Lee Aldrich is definitely going to prison for the rest of his life, and he's going to prison for the rest of his life for participating in an extremely heinous act. But this heinous act just shows me everything I talk about in The Man Crisis as related to the father and the son, in many cases being mirrors of each other. And in the case of your Anderson Lee Aldrich's father, it seems like, again, the apple just doesn't fall that far from the tree. Now, if you want to learn more about how these beta males become extremely dysfunctional and extremely violent, and what motivates them to participate in their dysfunctional and violent behavior, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Barnes & Noble, the iBookstore, Google Play, and even retailers like Walmart and possibly Target. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, which was requested by a viewer, You can donate to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to request a video and I know something about that subject, you can send a donation to the Cash App, and if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today.